Well, folks, as you guessed it, no pressure equals no problem for the New York Mets. How we doing, everybody? It's Wardy here. We're back at it with our latest New York Metropolitan postgame show. As the Mets are doing this thing called, we're going to start playing fun baseball now. The Mets take down the Cleveland Guardians in a clobbering fashion by a final whopping score today of 13-6. We're going to get into all the offensive heroics for the New York Mets as they continue to win ball games after their selling spree on Monday at this season's trade deadline. We'll get into not only what we loved on the offensive end with a Mets team that had north of 20 hits on the day here we saw against Cleveland, as well as a pitching staff that wasn't its sharpest by any stretch of the imagination for Noah McLean, but a Mets bullpen that yet again got the job done regardless of no AJ Minter, no Brooks Braley, no Huascar Brosman, no Luke Weaver, and yes, you guessed it, it is not a problem. So everybody, spam those W's on your way and let me know your live reactions, thoughts, and most certainly analysis in the comments to a live chat and to everyone watching on replay in the comments down below. We're going to deep dive not only the key takeaways and our reactions to the Mets winning a third consecutive ball game, sweeping the Cleveland Guardians in Cleveland, but we're also going to get into the latest news and rumblings regarding the club, especially as we have some more updates to get into on the prospect front, as well as what is going on with the team as a whole and how we can expect them to operate with certain aspects of the club moving forward. Everybody know the drill by now. Spam those W's on your way, and everyone watching live on replay. I don't care that the Mets are 50-66 on this season. Listen, I believe their magic number is what? I think they need like 38 wins out of the next 46 games or so, and then they'll be fine to make playoffs. It's absolutely hilarious. I'm pretty sure the Mets need to be around like 38-8 for the remainder of the season, and if they go in that kind of record, if they go 30 games essentially above 500 for the final 40 plus games, however much it needs to be, as long as they can do that, playoffs, maybe, just maybe, okay? So in the meantime, let's appreciate these victories and what currently is a Mets team still 16 games below average on the season. And let's let it rip, as we always do, everybody, with the one, the only, yes, you guessed it, WardyNYM post-game jingle, baby. Another day, another jingle. Let's do it.
Post-game. Post-game. Calling all Met fans, come and join us now. Talking about this game and gonna break it down. It's Mets post-game.
Shout out Greg and Jordan, as always, with the WardyNYM post-game jingle. Love it or hate it, is always here to stay. Shout out to each and every one of you watching live on replay. Shout out to the Mets bullpen, because again, another day where Nate Lavdog, the southpaw, Kodai Senga in the one-inning shutdown role, getting the job done. Xavier Curry wasn't perfect, but that's okay because he's literally just a guy that comes in the innings for the Mets and nothing more. And on a day where Noah McLean didn't even have his sharpest stuff, you could easily argue that this was just simply a clunker of an outing for him. Still struck out 8, but gave up the long ball that we saw did Nathaniel Lowe, one of the newly acquired players, along with Joe Adell for the Cleveland Guardians. So we'll get into where Nolan looked great, where he didn't look so great today in this victory, and on the Mets hitting end. Again, you get a hit, you get a hit, you get a hit, and you get it. Listen, the Mets may have given up 10 hits in this ball game, but it did not matter because they out-hit the Cleveland Guardians today 18-10. And the Mets were also 5 for 13 with runners in scoring position and still left a whopping 11 on base. So we're going to get into all the pros, from Francisco Lindor, more like Cisco bombs, to, of course, Carson Bench, Luis Robert, both very good days at the plate. Marcus Semien, reminding you that as much as you don't want him in the lineup, he's going to stay in the lineup. Jared Young doing his thing. Luis Torrens, another day, another bomb. Lots to love on the Mets offensive end, and you know it's a great day when on paper, the Mets' worst hitter today, you could argue, was in fact AJ Ewing, okay? And listen, I'm not someone that wants to see AJ Ewing batting anywhere outside of towards the top of this Mets lineup. However, What I will say is that AJ Ewing is someone who did not initially get the start today. It was Christian Pache, and he looked absolutely atrocious in his first couple at-bats, which is why AJ Ewing came in after the fact. So we're going to break down this lineup configuration, which had every Mets fan and their mother stating heading into the game today, oh my God, we actually have multiple guys worse than Marcus Semien offensively in this lineup today. Cough, cough, shout out my dog, Giraffe Neck Mark. I was laughing at that. How funny is it that on a day where the Mets look like they're throwing out a punt lineup, they put up 13 effing runs in Cleveland to secure the series sweep? I mean, you can't make it up. From Lindor obviously leading off the ball game at short back and leadoff spot that we see him was successful. Bo Bichette in the 2-hole. Luis Robert batted third. Benj fourth and right. Alvey fifth. DH sixth. Semien, I prefer him ninth, but he did look good today at second base. Wagaman seventh at first base. Eighth, Luis Torrens, stud catcher. And then Christian Pache turned AJ Ewing there in left field for the 9th spot. Now, folks, let's, of course, shout out our amazing sponsor before we get into these big donos and your questions, comments, and concerns. That being at PrizePicks, everybody, because thanks to PrizePicks, we're able to stay afloat here for the best in the game when it comes to daily live shows, post games, breakdowns, recaps, you name it. They help us stay afloat. Also, because they're officially live in the state of New York, and they are the best app in the game, undoubtedly, for the best player projections alive. So if you too would like to build a daily lineup of, say, a 3-pick play, a little more on hits for Carson Bench, a little more on total outs, one right for Noel McLean, a little, let's go less on total innings back when he was, say, a starter, and Kodai Senga. It doesn't matter now that he's a reliever, but you get the point I'm trying to make. Whatever plays you guys and gals would like to do, PrizePicks has you covered. Don't wait, don't hesitate. Download the PrizePicks app, link down below today, and use our promo code HMA, because when you do it, play $5 and win with that first play, you automatically get $150 after the fact. Again, use promo code HMA after downloading the PrizePicks app, play $5 and win, and automatically get $150. Shout out to PrizePicks. It's going to be right. And shout out to SeatGeek, the official marketplace of the New York Mets. Whether you would like them for Mets tickets or anything near the ticketing space, our great friends again at SeatGeek have you covered. Let's get a roll call. We got Steven, great member. Rebecca, great member. How are you? We got our guy, and also SeatGeek, everybody. WARDY10 for 10% off. Link down below if I didn't say that already. I'm rapid firing this right now. Wardy, I was there today. Oh, I love to hear that, my guy. Everyone went crazy for the Lindor homers, as they should. Obviously, Lindor back in Cleveland. Awesome to see him not only have the offensive day he had today, but especially after looking like such a shell of himself literally not even 24 hours ago in the Mets victory a day ago. Now we see here, Rick, how we doing? We got Mario $5 Hall. Thank you so much for that, Mario. We got a bunch of donations. Let's address them quick, and then let's break down this ball game for each and every one of you. Thank you all so much for chiming in live to replay and hanging those buttons on your way. And Anthony with $5 Hall states the following. Not impossible. The Red Sox have done it so far. Why can't we? LGM, no matter what. Listen, my friend, until the Mets are mathematically out of it, we can continue to ride the wave for however long we would like, okay? Thank you for that donation. I appreciate it. Why not us is what he's saying, right? Malvar with the $5 great member, as well as Anthony, obviously. I'm busy today, so he can't stay long. Great 5-game winning streak. I love all of you, and keep the chat weird and funny. Absolutely, my guy. Thank you so much for being here. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together that the Mets are quietly on a 5-game heater. They are on a 5-game heater, right? Because they won their previous 2 entering the series. Am I wrong? Jeffrey. Also met Andy Martino and Andy Chavez today. Was dope watching Clubhouse Pass live. Very cool, Mario. Hope you had a great time doing that. Shout out Andy Chavez, obviously, with the gorgeous catch back in 06. If you know, you know. I have that frame actually right beside me. I got to put it back on my wall. And Andy is actually a very nice guy. Yeah, I will say this. You know, I've definitely spoken a lot about Andy Martino over the years. And having gotten the chance to meet him personally and build a relationship, I can tell you that he really is a class act, and I do wish him well. I'm glad that he's in a role that is more pro Mets fandom than anti-Mets fandom during his time with SNY, where he was a bit more critical. He's not going to be like that, obviously, kind of just being, you know, a talking head for the Mets in his own way as a great interviewer for their players, alumni, stuff along those lines. Let's see. NY Mets, $2. We may never lose again. I tend to agree, my friend. Lose? What do you mean to lose? All I see is playoffs, my friend. All I see is playoffs. Cue the sarcasm, okay? But listen, the Mets are playing fun baseball. Can we appreciate that for a second? I would like to appreciate that. I think you Mets fans would like to appreciate that as well. So let's talk about why we should appreciate what the Mets are doing lately, okay? Nick, I know I need to get the wall together. Stop reminding me, even though I told you to remind me, okay? All right. Let's break it down, everybody. Here we go. Latest Mets post-game recap. Live in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Francisco Lindor begins the ball game, striking out swinging, as does Bo Bichette. But with 2 outs, Luis Robert gets the first of 18 hits on the day for the New York Mets. After Robert would get on, Carson Bench would strike out swinging. 3 big strikeouts early for Cleveland in this matchup for Griffin, and we're underway. We head to the bottom of the first, where we would see there Jose Ramirez gets on. J-Ram, one of the best to ever do it in the game. Such a hitting savant, such a stud in all facets of his game. He gets on with a 2-out walk, and then Nathaniel Lowe gets on with a single. Bases loaded already for Cleveland, and they pounce. Angel Martinez drives in a pair just like that, and the Guardians are quickly up in this ball game 2-0. Yeah, you know how the Mets won this game 13-6? They won this game rallying back after down multiple runs to start the game. That's what makes it even better. Petey Alpin came in with a single. Bases were still loaded for Patrick Bailey, but thankfully, Noel McLean is able to limit the damage to allowing just those 2 couple runs, and that is how this ball game officially begins. Afterwards, we get to the second inning. With 1 away, Marcus Semien with a big fly. Semien smacks his 13th home run of the year, just as much as Carson Bench, and just like that, the Mets are now down a run here in this ball game as the veteran second baseman puts the Mets on the board. Eric Wagman, who got the start at first base today, especially given the pitching matchup, he gets on with a single. Wagman's been quietly solid every time the Mets have kind of called upon him. Nothing sexy, nothing crazy, just kind of steady. Luis Torrens says, listen, I hit 1 home run this series, let's just make it 2, okay? Louis doing the best thing he knows how, and that's going Oppo all the time. Oppo tacos every day of the week for Torrens, who now has 4 home runs on the season and tied in the ball game. No, let's give the Mets the lead rather, because Wagman was on base. It is now a 3-2 Mets lead, and they would continue to tack on from there. Afterwards, that'll do it for the inning. The Mets are now up 1 as we then head to the bottom of the second. In the bottom of the second, everybody, Travis Mazzana would get on with a 1-out walk. He would steal his 17th bag of the year. And then afterwards, it wouldn't matter because Chase DeLauder would strike out and J-Ram grounds out. A beautiful play there that we would see by the Mets in the infield. We head to the third inning where Bo Bichette would get on with a leadoff walk. Then Carson Bench with an RBI triple with 1 out. Bench's 3rd triple this season. The Mets' 2nd triple this series, as Jared Young just had one a day or so ago. Carson Bench, who's had big flies in this series, now has himself a big triple. That drives in a run and put the Mets back up now by 2. Initially down 2, up 2. You love to see it. Alvarez gets on with a walk, and the Marcus Semien makes it a 5-2 ball game with a sac fly of his own. There we go. We now head to the bottom of third, where we would see the Mets go down 1-2-3. They mow down, I should say, the Guardians 1-2-3 as McLean gets Lowe, Martinez, and Brian Rocchio. We head to the fourth. We're in the fourth. We would see with 2 outs, Francisco Lindor gets on with a single of his own. Bo Bichette hits his 17th double of the season, everybody. And that's all she wrote, though, as Luis Robert would fly out to end the inning unscathed with runners in scoring position. We have the bottom of the fourth, where it's a 1-2-3 as Halpin, Bailey, and Janeo do a whole lot of nothing. We then head to the fifth, where Alvarez would get on with a 1-out walk. Semien says, you know what, we had a home run today. We might as well add a double in that conversation too. Semien gets on there with his 9th double of the season. And then Jared Young says, let's make this even more fun. Young, with an RBI knock, makes it a 6-2 ball game. He steals his 2nd bag of the season. And then the Mets don't do anything else in this inning. However, they are now up 4 runs here as we head to the bottom of the 5th. In the bottom of the 5th, everybody, we see Noel McLean stay in, and McLean gives up a long ball. With runners on first and second, Nathaniel Lowe gets all of that one, his 13th home run of the year. Big fly for the Guardians. If I'm not mistaken, this is Lowe's first home run as a Guardian. If he didn't hit one already this series, it is now a 1-run ball game after the Mets did such a fantastic job to get that early multi-run lead rallying back. It is now a 1-run deficit for Cleveland, and thankfully, it would stay that way and then get a whole lot worse for them. We then head to the 6th inning. With 2 outs, Luis Robert gets on there with a single, as does Carson Bench, but Alvarez would ground out in the infield to end it. We head to the bottom of the 6th inning, where Nate Lavender, the southpaw, who made his Mets major league debut for them that we saw, 24 to 48 hours ago, was brilliant when 1.1 scrolls innings of work. Today, Lavdog comes in and he gets Mr. Angel Janeo out when everyone and their mother has not been able to do so since he made his debut yesterday. Joe Adell's called out strikes, and Chase DeLauder is striking out swinging. 2 punchies, scroll sitting. Shout out Nate Lavender for being a nice lefty. We head to the 7th inning, everybody, where Marcus Semien gets on with a leadoff single. Semien is a triple shy away the cycle. Who had that on their bingo card today? I know I sure as shit didn't, and nor did you, so don't act like you did, okay? Nonetheless, Jared Young then we would see pop into a force out, and then he would in fact steal his second bag of the day by getting on base this way because Simeon would be out at second. And then Terens smacks himself a single, runners out the corners. Then we see A.J. Ewing unfortunately out on the sac bunt, but that does allow the runner to get in the scoring position. And not that would really matter much because Francisco Lindor lets one fly. Lynn bombs, Cisco bombs. Francisco Lindor is in the double-digit home run category. He smacks one that we would see to right on a changeup down and in. Perfect sweet spot for Lindor. 97 off the bat. It's high, it's far, and it's roughly 385 feet. Lindor's 10th home run of the year, a 3-run, 2-out shot. One of his bigger home runs this season when talking about doing it in the clutch with scoring position, 2 outs. It makes it a 9-5 Mets lead, and it would only get better from there for them. We head to the bottom of the 7th, everybody. We're in the bottom of the 7th. We would go on to see a 1-2-3 inning from, yes, you guessed it, Kodai mother effing Senga. He's doing that thing again, guys. Kodai Senga. Big strikeouts on both Lowe and Angel Martinez. The velo looked good today. The Ghost Fork looked as advertised, and that should have you happy. In the 8th inning, Luis Robert gets on with a leadoff single, as does Carson Benj afterwards. Runners then get to first and second, more like second and third, thanks to a wild pitch. Mets have an opportunity to pounce, and Francisco Alvarez, who's had a very underwhelming series, says, okay, time to snap out it. Alvarez demolishes a baseball. It's his 10th double a season. That drives in a pair, or pardon me, that drives in a run, and that makes it a 10-5 New York Mets lead. After a Marcus Semien walk, who had a tremendous day at the plate, as much as that may pain me to say at times, I want the Mets to do well, whoever's playing, so I'll give credit where credit's due. Jared Young then works an RBI walk to make it 11-5 ball game, and then everybody, Luis Torrens works a walk himself. That makes it 12-5 after they bring the southpaw reliever. It's an absolute shit show in Cleveland, at least if you're a Guardians fan. Then after 2 outs on A.J. Ewing and Francisco Lindor, Bo Bichette smacks a single to make it a 13-5 lead. We would go on to see Xavier Curry give up 1 run in the 9th inning, but that's all she wrote. The Mets go on to again win this one by a final score of 13-6. Fantastic day for a Metropolitan offense. So, on the pitching end, we'll be fairly brief with this one. Again, this just wasn't Nolan's day. He didn't locate the best, obviously, but the good thing about Nolan McLean is that even in a day where he allows 5 earned runs, he's still able to give the Mets at least 5 innings. It's not like he completely taxed the bullpen, and Xavier Curry is that kind of guy that should be in mop-up duty, that should be thrown in for a couple innings. If we're talking about just for the sake of playing baseball, we're not talking about putting the team in the best position to win, because I don't think Xavier Curry necessarily does that for you, obviously. But you have to deal with what you have, and the Mets bullpen on paper is a shell of what it was 72 plus hours ago. But that's not the point. It's about seeing what you have and your current options now. And if you perform well with them, awesome. If you don't, you're not shocked. And that's really the status of this season, between that and the veteran call-ups to the bullpen, as well as the newcomers still to the rotation and the newcomers to the offense, specifically the continued growth development of A.J. Ewing and Carson Bench. Nolan McLean today threw the 4-seam fastball 27% of the time, sat 96 miles per hour on it, and was right around 2,300 on the spin rate. We also saw for Nolan today his sinker 26% of the time, which he threw sat 95, was right around 2,200 on the spin rate. Curveball 20% of the time, we saw right around 3,300, as well as there as 81 miles per hour on the velocity. Curveball, there you go, 20% of the time. Sweeper, 12% of the time at 84, 85 miles per hour, and right around 2,900 on the spin rate. Cutter, 11% of the time, sitting right around 93 and right around 2,400. Changeup, last but not least, 5% of the time, right around 88 and also right around 1,200 there on the spin rate. So, guys, I'll be pretty quick with this. Nolan McLean didn't have his sharpest day, so he's not going to get a great grade. Nolan McLean's final line today, going 5 innings, 8 hits, 3 walks, 5 earned runs allowed, 8 strikeouts. The strikeouts are nice, but it's not enough. Nolan McLean is going to get a 3.5 out of 10 from your guy Wardy today. You could go 4 for him as well, sure. I'm fine with either of those numbers, but I really don't think I would go higher than that. Do I like Dylan Ross still? Yes, but him and Ryan Lambert have not had the seasons that they have wanted. Hence why neither of the two have been called up by the New York Mets this season. When it comes to the remaining pitchers for the Mets, however, Nate Lavender, 4-seam fastball, sat right around 93 on it. That looked nice. Had the slider, the changeup, and the sweeper too. That slider was right around 2,500 in the spin rate. Kodai Senga, everybody, looked damn good with the velo today. He sat right around 98, touched 100 on the gun. The Ghost Forked as well looked good for him. The sweeper looked solid. A lot lot to like with Kodai and what you were getting with his offerings, and Xavier Curry didn't really have anything overly sexy to flash besides the fact that he was slightly up in all of his velocity on his pitches today. So there is that. Mets collected pitching today, allowing 6 earned runs in the total of 9 innings today. They are going to be getting a 4.5 out of 10 versus a 3.5 from Noel McLean. So that is my pitching grade today. You guys can let me know if you agree or disagree in a live chat, into a replay, viewers in the comments down below. I appreciate that. On the Mets hitting, this is what you got, everybody. Let's start top to bottom here, beginning with Mr. A.J. Ewing. Pardon me. Usually A.J. Ewing. I'm used to it so often. A.J. not in leadoff today is throwing me off. Lindor in leadoff was awesome today. I just don't want to be at the detriment of guys like A.J. Ewing, because A.J. initially had the off day today. That's why Pache got the start, and then it didn't take long for A.J. to be put in the game, because Christian Pache is, coloring me shocked, not good. What? You mean to tell me that his spring training breakout wasn't going to be sustainable at the major league level? You mean to tell me that him falling off a cliff not long after his red hot start to spring and first 2 weeks in Syracuse is actually more or less what you're going to get in him? Who would have thought such a thing, right? Francisco Lindor, big day, 2 for 6, 3 RBIs with the home run, 3 strikeouts. He struck out a lot. He struck out, actually, Lindor struck out 7 times in the past 24 hours. Not good. 230 average, 733 OPS with a big home run. That makes up for it a bit. Bichette, 2 for 5 with the RBI, 257 average, 671 OPS. Bichette didn't have a bad series by any stretch. He looked good. Beatty came in after him defensively, 290 with a 620. Robert, best game of the series, 3 for 6 with 2 runs scored, 203 average, 605 OPS. Benj, 3 for 6, 2 runs scored, the RBI triple, 267 with a 737. Alvey, 1 for 4 with 2 runs scored and a pair of walks, 251 with a 769. Simeon, 3 for 4 with 2 runs scored and 2 RBIs, 214 with a 633. Eric Wagman at first base, 1 for 2 with a run scored, 190 with a 610. Terens, awesome day for Terens, but Jared Young, though, came in after Wagman and was also very good, 1 for 2 with the run scored, 2 RBIs, and the walk, 253 with a 766. Guys, I F with Jared Young way too much. I like that guy a lot. Luis Terens, 2 for 4, 3 RBIs, the Apple Bomb, 2 runs scored, and a walk, 234 with a 659. Pache, 0 for Ewing, 0 for 262 with a 727. Mets offense today, 18 hits, 13 runs. I don't need to think twice about this. It's an easy 10 out of 10 for the Mets offense today, okay? It's always great when you can say 10 out of 10, because it doesn't happen too often for anything, New York Mets really, let alone winning a ball game. So yes, everybody, that is what you guys and gals got from the Mets on the victory, and that is really the key takeaway for me, especially. A couple at-bats that really were impressive to me today that we saw. I have to begin, obviously, with Luis Terens' just continued clutch ability. There's something so fascinating about Luis Terens to me in ways that can't necessarily be stated about other players, because it feels like no matter what, Terens always is just going to be hitting in the clutch for the New York Mets. Like, if there's one thing that we know in certainty, is that Luis Terens is always going to be this kind of guy where if there's runners in scoring position, 2 outs, do you need a hit down the third baseline? Do you need a hit down the first baseline? Who are you going to call? Not Ghostbusters, it's Luis Terens, okay? Terens is just that Mr. Consistent for them, and that's why he's not only so valuable to the club, separate from his defense, but also why he was so valuable across the league, as to why many teams wanted him at this year's deadline, understandably so. Between Terens and Alvarez, the Mets really do have one of the best catching tandems in Major League Baseball, and that is not an understatement in the slightest. There's really a lot to be happy about. And I really do believe that when you look at what the Mets are able to do with Terens and Alvarez, especially if they can work on Alvarez's defensive game a bit down the stretch this season, this is a tandem that should absolutely be a stronghold for them next season as well. They just got to stay healthy. Jermaine, I miss you back, baby. Happy to have you in here, brother. Hope you were doing tremendous. Shout out to everyone watching live. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on your way to everybody. It really does mean a lot to me. We got some guys acting up in the chat per usual. Sounds like a day that ends in Y. What day is today? Thursday, August 6th? Yeah, that checks. That absolutely does. But final thing I have to say from the Mets offensive takeaways today, besides Luis Terens, who I'm very encouraged to see, give credit where credit's due. Marcus Semien had a very good day today. I know I'm not happy to say it because I don't want this guy playing more than this season. I don't even want him playing right now, just because he's not going to be part of the club's future, right? We all know this. He's just going to be taking up space. It's a contract the Mets are going to have to eat before it's concluded. They absolutely are going to have to eat at least the final year, if not more, of that contract for Simeon. Probably 2 at least. So even with him performing well, that's great to see. But again, it only moves the needle for me so much right now from a fan point of view. Benj, love what we saw from Carson. Awesome series for Carson Bench, no doubt about it. Very impressed with Carson's continued ability to hit for power. This is something where heading into the season, and I want to shout out my friend. I hope he sees this. Shout out Mike from Stark Raven Sports. Mike, I'm calling your ass out right now, Mike, because one thing that I remember, Sweet Pete, you got to relax, my guy. You got to relax, brother. If there's one thing I could say about Mike is that heading into the season, when the season was beginning, the first 2 weeks, he was so confident that Benj was never going to be able to put his hit tools together. So confident. I'm like, give it time, because he's only hitting for opposite field at this point. He was barely pulling a baseball, and there was criticism there, but I was just like, the amount of criticism I just thought was so not justified. I'm like, give him time. He's going to be more than fine. And he was the same way about Alvarez, too, before Alvarez really started to blossom offensively too early in his career. He had the exact same kind of criticism. He's like, I don't see it. I'm like, you see it now? You see it now, Mike? Mike, I hope you watch this and you're like, you SOB. But it's true, though. Carson Bench has been one of the most consistent players for the Mets all season long, if not the most consistent, if you would like to separate, obviously, Juan Soto as well as A.J. Ewing, what these respective outfielders have been able to do. With that respect, you have to be very happy with Carson Bench's rookie year, all things considered. If Carson Bench finishes his rookie year with around 20 home runs, 70-plus RBIs or so, right in that category, we're looking at an OPS in the 750 range, maybe a little, OPS plus or WRC plus, just above league average. We're taking that every single day of the week for your Brandon Nimmo replacement. I know I am, and I know that you guys are too. Very happy with Carson Bench and his continued growth on the offensive end. Now, if there's anyone else I would like to just give, their tip of the cap to hopefully see more of, it's a guy that the Mets are continuing to give playing time, whether you like it or not, especially in center field, and that is obviously Mr. Luis Robert Jr. Robert, as we know, is someone who, according to Andy Green, Mets interim manager, is going to be playing a lot of center field moving forward this season. There's an expectation that he's going to be playing center field far more than you're going to see him there and left or in right. And personally, I do not want to see that become the case, obviously. But it's one of these things where, regardless as to how we feel, okay, let's go out and see you play. And Robert not only was fine defensively today, offensively, this was his best game of the series, or things being encouraged by, I think, undoubtedly with that. And if the Mets can get this kind of production out of Robert, where he can at least be impactful, be a difference maker a bit in 1 out of your 3 games this series, that's much greater than him being non-existent because he was out for multiple months with injury, right? So I like what the Mets have going to a certain extent with their offense. And I did tell you guys, if you guys have been followers on the platform, or if you're not new here, you should not be surprised by the following thing that I'm about to say. I told each and every one of you, do not be surprised when post-trade deadline, that we were going to be seeing the New York Mets actually play some very good offensive ball. Loose, fun, relaxed baseball. With a lack of pressure, with a lack of media expectation that this team is actually going to, in fact, go ahead and make a playoff run. With that completely out the door now, this is where the Mets can have fun and either prove everyone wrong and have the most miraculous run imaginable for the final month and a half, 2 months of the year, or they could still play fun, loose baseball that should actually have you somewhat entertained as a fan this season for the first time all year. Because nothing was entertaining about the New York Mets really up until recently. Let's call it how it is. They've had such a dreadful year. It's been dreadful to watch. It's been dreadful to cover. It's been everything else in between. So for the Mets to finally get some consistency going, they have a little bit of a win streak going. I'm just double checking to make sure that they actually aren't a 5-game heater. I know they obviously won 3 straight, but my memory is so blank prior to the series ending. Okay. Yeah, no, they're on a 3-game heater. Yeah, I thought it's a 3-game heater. Yeah, why did Malvar think we didn't get swept by Miami prior to this series? Because I remember, I knew it felt wrong. It felt very, very weird. Very, very weird. I knew for a fact that we only had won 3 straight. And that's why I was like, I don't know how much I'm buying that. But nonetheless, Mets have won 3 straight. They're 15-66 on the season. And the only thing that I will say that sucks most about the Mets having this loose, fun baseball for the rest of the season now is the fact that they're doing it without, obviously, Juan Soto. because Juan Soto is someone that I really want to see this season, especially down the stretch with the youngsters. And while Soto should hopefully be back for the final month of September, it really would have been nice to see Soto not as injury plagued as he was this year. Missing 2+ months, let alone 3 of Juan Soto this year, sucks for the $765 million man. You know how valuable he is. You know what he brings to the table. And you know that if you had Soto and this lineup down the stretch this year, again, if your rotation can play, the Mets can play good baseball. I'm not saying the Mets are going to make playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to go on a 38-8 run or anything along those lines. But what I am saying, though, is I absolutely see a role where the Mets could play closer to 500 ball, if not 500 ball, throughout the remainder of the year, just because of the lack of expectation and the ability to actually not have that pressure weigh on you. This has been something that's plagued the Mets so commonly that we have seen for so long, especially under Steve Cohen and prior. When the club has expectation, when the club is supposed to be a certain status of a team, they always fail to meet that expectation. So how can they go about things now moving forward at 50 and 66? And that's just continue to chip away day by day. Listen, if the Mets can find themselves digging themselves out of a hole to getting, instead of 16 games below 500, to getting to 6 games below 500, that'd be awesome. Am I banking on it? No, not at all. But it's something that I would like to see happen, and I look forward to if and when that does happen for the Mets at any point in the season. Now, having said that, though, that is really my final thoughts on the Mets offense. You guys can let me know yours there as well. Now, to kind of conclude our conversation today, what I would like to wrap up with everybody is to get into the latest on the news and rumor front. So, here's what you need to know. And really nothing on rumor. It's more so just emphasis on news, because it's not like I've traded rumblings to talk about with each and every one of you today, as fun as those have a tendency to be. This is far more on what is going on with the roster construction. And as we know, AJ Minter, Huascar Brosban, Brooks Raley, Luke Weaver, all out of here. Speaking of which, shout out to Brooks Raley, double agent, gave up a bomb that helps the Phillies lose their game yesterday. AJ Minter separately gave up a bomb that costed the Twins, and ultimately they lost 2-1 to the Royals yesterday. Not that I do not want to see those guys do well, because I do, but if Brooks Raley can be a double agent, pitch so bad for the Phillies that he becomes DFA'd, and then the Mets pick him up before the season ends, it's just kind of like when they picked up Brad Hand when he wouldn't even be eligible for playoffs years ago, and we were just like, F it, and let's just give him a look. That would be the best scenario, obviously, that could happen. So the reason why I mentioned the bullpen and the roster here is because now that you brought in, obviously, Jeffrey Yon, Chase McDermott, Nate Lavender, and there's probably one or two others I'm blanking on that the Mets have called up over the past 48 to 72 hours. These are the new guys on the block. And the fun thing about the new guys on the block that you guys need to be reminded of is that while, yes, they do not at all have the track record of success like the players that we talked about in Minter, Raley, Brazo, Weaver, etc., however, what they do bring is a level of excitement. And again, another aspect to kind of see what is going to be going on here for the club. If any of these guys could actually play their way to a bullpen spot for next season, that would be a great thing to become reality. I mean, who wouldn't love Jeffrey Yon other than the people who hate him jumping and having this celebration? I love it. I'm all for it. Again, I like to be entertained watching a sport for entertainment, not to be a little tight ass about things. And oh my God, this hurts the integrity of the game. How dare he pop up and pop down when he strike out? All the fans are going to be pissed. Literally shut up. All right. That's old man yelling at cloud is my big takeaway from it. Let me enjoy this, because at the end of the day, if Yon gets his tits lit and doesn't pitch well, then okay. Then every fan base and every opposing club that gets pissed off by his antics can let him know right then and there how much of a clown he is, okay? And he has to deal with it. He's been doing this his entire career. He's almost 30 years of age. You don't think the guy knows, as someone who's been doing it for literal years on end in every league he's been a part of, how fan reaction is going to be? He just quite literally doesn't give a shit because he's out there having fun playing baseball. And that's why, if you guys saw that clip that's either in this video that I made for, or actually I didn't put it in the video, but pregame today, you saw Jeffrey Yon. I'll actually show you guys. I need to show you guys this. He looks sick. Just him being a goofball and having fun with the Mets. So the news here is that Yon, again, the guy touches 101. He's dotting corners. There's a lot to be excited about with someone like him. Nate Lavender has always been a lefty option that I've longed to see in this Mets bullpen. I've always been wanting to see him going back to his 2024 spring training breakout. And now it's finally becoming a reality. And he's looking good. You know, if either of these lefties could be guys that actually impact the Mets for their bullpen next season, that's a huge win for them. Absolute huge win. If Chase McDermott's someone that could be solid, that maybe they consider for next season as well, if he stays in the organization, that could be had too. Then we get into, obviously, what's happening not only with Lavender and these guys, there was one other player that I want to mention. That's Danil Nunez. Nunez obviously gave up a couple of unearned runs yesterday because of the Jared Young error that we saw. But Danil Nunez finally back with the club. That's exciting too, because Nunez had such a nice Linsanity run for the New York Mets that we saw going back in the first half of the 2024 season. Again, 2024 is notable because not only was it a great run for the Mets, but Nate Lavender, Danil Nunez, Lavender was the big impressive pitcher in spring training before going down with injury that year. And then Danil Nunez was also very impressive in a 20-plus inning sample size before he went down with injury that really he hasn't been back since. So, again, I'm excited to see what these guys can bring to the table. And as you guys can see, this is our dog. How do you not love Jeffrey Young? This guy's such a vibe. Look at him. Look at him. He's such a vibe. Bro's just out here having fun. He might be 29, but he's like a 19-year-old who just got caught up literally for his MLB debut. I'm loving it. And also credit to the New York Mets as well, because Jan has been a journeyman throughout his career. He's always had the stuff. He struggles mightily to command that strike zone. Again, he had like a 6 walks per 9 with AAA Syracuse this year, over 12K per 9. So he's going to be a wild thing out there. He's going to look like Vaughn straight out of Major League, where, you know, he's going to look nasty, and then he's going to be thrown right at a guy's head. And then, regardless of him throwing out a guy's head accidentally, if he strikes that same guy out on the next pitch after dusting him off, he's going to do his damn jump, and it's going to piss everyone off. It's inevitably going to happen. This will happen 1,000%. Reed Garrett, I know, Reed Garrett. Oh my, haven't we talked about Reed Garrett all year? Reed Garrett, as you guys love to say, is funny. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with Reed Garrett, if he's even going to be able to pitch before the year ends. I have no clue what his status is right now. I have not deep dived anything on Reed Garrett. Great guy, though. I like Reed Garrett. Reed Garrett's a weapon, obviously. Has been a weapon for the Mets. Could be again, depending on how he looks post-injury. But nonetheless, that's like the important stuff. It's really just more so on the bullpen. That's kind of the main takeaway I have here. And then I also did want to pull up to make sure that I didn't miss anything for you guys from Andy Green's post-game remarks before we get out of here. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Here's also what I want to show you guys from earlier today, because this is just going to be a brief touch-up on Mets prospects. It's not going to be long-winded at all. Just want to kind of inform you guys of some really cool things that have happened over the past 24 hours on the prospect end. May talk about this in content tomorrow as well. But guys, Emilian Petrie, for those that don't know, was one of the 3 prospects the Mets acquired in the Freddie Peralta trade, and he has been an absolute hit, Scott, since the Mets have acquired him. Every single game he's played for the New York Mets so far in AA, he's had multi-hit games, driving in runs as well. And this guy has one of the best strikeout rates in all the minor leagues right now, at like just over 10%. It is insane how good he is at commanding the strike zone right now as a hitter. And for those that don't know, Petrie cut his strikeout rate in over half from a year ago. A year ago, in 119 or so games, he had over 100 strikeouts. This season, in 90-plus games, he has 40 strikeouts. He has literally been a man possessed. And I cannot believe, everybody, that we went this long. Oh, wait. DJ, you got me. You got me. I just realized you made me think, did I do the jingle or not today already? I know I did the jingle. We'll play the jingle one more time before I get out of here, just for each and every one of you. But Petrie has looked awesome. Very excited for him. Mets infield prospect. Very well could be the second baseman of the future for this New York Mets team. And someone who, do not be surprised, everybody, if Petrie's knocking on the door to look for that second base job next season. And the Mets have said, you know what, Ronnie Mauricio's not our guy. According to Will Salmon, the Mets actually view Ronnie more as an outfield fit potentially than anything else. So what does that say about his future with the Mets? It means he's likely not going to have one with the Mets, right? When you look at what Petrie's been able to do, when you look at Sammy Stafora, the New York native, who in his Mets debut yesterday as part of the Luke Weaver trade, hit a double on the first pitch he saw there for High A Brooklyn. To say he's excited is also an understatement. So very happy to see what Petrie's able to do. We're also seeing Aiden Smith's been hitting well. Billy Amick's been hitting well. Most of the guys the Mets have brought in since the deadline have all been off to really nice, roaring hot starts for them in the farm. And another guy who's stepping up big time in the farm isn't a newcomer, but he's a notable player because he is going to be knocking on the door for the Mets next season. Guys, take a look. Take a look at that outfielder right there. You want to know what's notable about that outfielder making a great catch right along the warning track? That's Chris Suero. Chris Suero has been in leadoff for the Rumble Ponies this year as a catcher, as a first baseman, and plays left, center, and right field. You hear that correctly? He plays every outfield position. He plays first base, and he calls a rock-solid game defensively at catcher. That uber athleticism alone is why Chris Suero is going to be at the major league level sooner rather than later. He is all feast or famine as well. He has not done much when it comes to the contact ability this year. He's batted more around the Mendoza line, but the power has been immense, and that's what's pushed him north of an 800 OPS this season. Soroa first broke out in the scene that we saw in the Mets minor leagues last year, having great success as a Bronx native playing for High A Brooklyn. That is what really started to put him on the map. This year, we've seen more of that. Spikerman as well, another Mets prospect that they acquired at 100%. But Swero's an exciting one, and I feel like he's not been talked about nearly as much as he should be this year because he hasn't hit for great contact, but just an uber athletic talent that absolutely is going to be knocking on the door within the next calendar year at the Major League. He's just so athletic that the Mets will figure out a way to put him in that conversation if they have not done so already. So very excited to see what the Mets can get in someone like Suero moving forward, as well as Emilian Petrie. It did not take much to get me excited about the Mets farm again. All it took was David Stearns acquiring Jefferson Rojas, bringing in Emilian Petrie, and the other two talents from the Rays, obviously. Bringing in Bruin Agbayani and Billy Amick, who I'm really not overly ecstatic about. Amick has Ryan Clifford egregious strikeout rates in the minor leagues right now, but a lot of power. One of the harder hitters now in the Mets minor leagues. When you look at even, Chase McDermott, who the Mets have got in the Ben Roivich trade, now they add a reliever that helps him right away for their bullpen. Not that he's going to move the needle, probably get his ass lit up at some point. Nonetheless, happy about these moves and happy how the Mets were able to add 12 prospects to a farm that, for those who are unaware, traded away north of 10 at last year's deadline. Do you guys not remember that the Mets traded away north of 10 prospects away at last year's deadline, and it meant jack all? So it's important to not only replenish these assets with new ones, but also to position yourself where you bolster your farm. You see these guys knocking on the door, a bunch of guys with ETAs for 2027, and for the guys that you do not call up, and maybe you do not need or want, you go ahead and you package and you trade in a bigger deal. So either way, the Mets have positioned themselves well to have more success with the farm in the future. And I think with guys like Petrie, with Sammy Stafora, they in night and day, in a 24-hour span, have rejuvenized their up-the-middle infield prospects. And for a club that has struggled with defense with guys like Simeon and Lindor, and with a lot of uncertainty as to how this infield configuration is even going to look next season, this positions the Mets better than they previously were. And then you add in the fact that, Jefferson Rojas may very well be the third baseman in the future for the club, regardless of Bo Bichette and his status. So a lot of layers to the Mets and what these prospects bring. I would argue that they are a bit more than lottery tickets, depending on the individual prospect we talk about. Nonetheless, I understand why they're still deemed as lottery tickets by everyone, because they're still filled with uncertainty at the Major League level. Nonetheless, everybody, that is going to do it for our latest Metropolitan Postgame show. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. We had a really nice, fun discussion today as the Mets, again, take down the Cleveland Guardians, sweep the Guards today by a final score that we saw there. And, Steven, I'm glad that you believe me. Yeah, for those that don't know, I've been on the A.J. Ewing train since literally last summer. I mean, beforehand even. We've been talking about him since April of last season. And I said to each and every one of you this spring training, A.J. Ewing 1,000% is going to be impacting the Mets this year. He's too talented not to. Let's see. Wardy, have you seen the interview with Jeff Passan on the Matt Barnes show? He talks about the potential lockout. I have not, my friend, but thank you for enlightening me. I'll make sure to check that out. I'm sure it's just talking about how the lockout's probably not going to be good, because it's more than likely not going to be good, and I do not look forward to that. But nonetheless, thank you so much for that donation. I'll make sure to check it out after I'm done being live here. So each and every one of you, have a fantastic rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. Be on the lookout, as we should have more Mets content dropping manana for each and every one of you. Until then, have a great one, and as always, no matter what, folks, let's go Mets. Have a great night. Check out our Wolf Salmon exclusive interview, MLB Insider, breaking down what is next for the Mets on the platform yesterday. Check out our Mets new prospect breakdown that was live 2 days ago on the platform as well. A lot of content. If you haven't already, check out all of our reaction content to the Clay Holmes, Luke Weaver trades, AJ Minter, Brazo, all that fun stuff in case you guys and gals haven't. And because I promised, and because you reminded me, we're going to wrap up the show the same way we started. Letting it rip with a post-game jingle.